The story begins with a man running through heavy snow asking himself what life is. Suddenly an arrow hits his ankle and he falls, bleeding. As he collapses, he thinks that life is a boiled egg. Lying on the ground, he tries to understand what that means. A leader with a blade appears and his allies surround the fallen man. They search him and find a relic. The leader lifts his sword and kills him. As he dies, the man thinks that nothing has meaning and that he fought until the end, just like in a game. A voice echoes, telling the man to murder. He responds that it was necessary to die once. A strange figure appears and holds his head. The man claims that he has already collected the relic's divinity. The figure fixes his head on his neck, saying there was no need for a useless tale following him, though he did lose some money. The man remembers being in his late 20s, too busy and tired to play games. He does not remember the game's name or why he bought it, but he remembers playing as the priest of corruption. It was the hardest and weakest class, but it made his heart race. After finishing all quests and losing all materials, he became the priest of corruption and fell into the game world. Back in the scene, the figure thinks about the mother of corruption, the goddess he serves. Everything began 5 years ago when he started serving her. When he woke up in the game, he had only a robe of the Order of Corruption and the mother's hand resting on his chest. The strong presence from the hand made him realize he had truly fallen into the game. According to the game's lore, the priest of corruption is a genetically enhanced human, modified by drugs. His body has enhanced strength and senses and can only be killed by divinity. Though he once feared blood, he now feels nothing. His body cannot feel or taste anything anymore. Later he visits a place where the receptionist hands him an ID and calls him Priest Marnak. Inside the northern city of ABUSES, he pretends to be a priest of the Order of Preservation. Normally, such impersonation would bring divine punishment, but the mother of corruption allows it. She is hated by all, and Marnak is her only follower. The receptionist shows Marnak a notice for bandit or monster hunting. Recently, farmers traveling toward ABUSES have gone missing. Anyone who finds the cause and defeats it will earn 30 nips of silver per head. Even those who fail will still receive 1 silver nip from the Lord of Guys. He checks the notice and understands it easily. He can read the language of this world since the moment he arrived. He asks if he can receive part of the reward now, which surprises the receptionist. Later, Marnak travels through a snowy mountain. He keeps hearing a voice calling him a murderer. He realizes it is the voice of the mother of corruption, who talks too much. A man named Pierre walks beside him and begins chatting. Pierre asks about Marnak's background and mentions his nearby village, hoping his parents are safe. He says Captain Galad once helped his family survive the winter but worries for them again. Pierre also mentions rumors that the missing farmers were taken by ghosts, not people or monsters. Marnak finds Pierre overly talkative. Another man calls Pierre to the front, and he leaves. The voice of the mother of corruption continues urging Marnak to kill. Marnak thinks killing everyone would only cause him problems. He needs 29 silver nips to survive the winter. He tries to calm the mother and then wonders how many fingers to rate the people around him. He remembers the divine system that measures divinity by fingers. 1 finger is 10 divinity and 5 fingers are 100,000. By collecting 10,000 divinity, he can gain 1 authority. He once absorbed the divinity of a holy relic and gained such power. There are 12 relics left. The mother of corruption promised that if he gathers all the relic's divinity, his wishes will be fulfilled. His first wish is to regain his sense of taste. Pierre returns, saying the captain warned him not to bother Marnak. Marnak assures him he is fine. Suddenly, an arrow strikes one of the men. Marnak pushes Pierre aside and takes the arrows himself. He falls to the ground, realizing they are under attack by bandits. The voice tells him to kill. He understands the mother of corruption wants him to play dead and then collect their divinity. Smiling, Marnak decides to act, raising his sword to strike first. Marnak moves forward and attacks the bandits. One of the bandits steps up and challenges him while ordering the others to handle the rest. They clash fiercely, and Marnak pushes the bandit back. He looks at his sword and wonders how strong the opponent really is. He asks the mother of corruption, Fingers, to rank the enemy. The bandit rushes again, and their blades collide once more. Marnak watches the strange hand showing, 2.5. He becomes frustrated, realizing that a mere bandit is as strong as the ranger who once slit his throat. The mother of corruption whispers again, telling him to murder. The bandit charges with force and shatters Marnak's sword. Marnak curses under his breath while the bandit laughs loudly. The bandit brags about his weapon made of frost steel and mocks Marnak, saying he looks ordinary. He offers to end the fight peacefully since they were already planning to quit being bandits after this job. Marnak refuses and instead gives his own offer to stop being a bandit and leave the place for good, promising to go easy if they comply. The bandit mocks him for being naive, asking if he really thought they would just agree and leave. Before Marnak can finish his reply, an arrow hits his head. The bandit yells at his comrades for being late, saying he thought he would die. Another bandit mocks him, reminding him that he broke Marnak's sword. The first bandit proudly explains he precisely aimed his strike. They confirm everyone else is dead. But suddenly, a voice echoes, asking if they truly killed everyone. They look in shock as Marnak rises again, alive despite the arrow wound. He tells them he had given them a chance, but they answered by attacking his head. Panic spreads among the bandits as their leader screams for everyone to fire. Marnak begins chanting to the mother of corruption, admitting he is lost and fearful, asking for her aid. The bandits panic, calling him a monster and trying to flee, but they find themselves trapped by an invisible barrier. Marnak recognizes this as the line in which the living cannot pass, a divine authority of the priest of corruption that prevents the living from fleeing and hides corruption's divinity. He smiles faintly, saying he really likes this authority of his, the mother of corruption. The bandit orders his men to unsheath their swords, shouting that they have no choice and must try to cut through the barrier. Suddenly, a terrifying monster appears, and all the bandits panic. They plead with the Marnak to spare them, promising never to be bandits again. Marnak coldly gives his command, allowing everything except their heads to remain untouched. The mother of corruption whispers again, telling him to murder. He asks if the mother of corruption wants him to collect divinity, then hesitates, realizing that doing so would make their bodies disappear. If that happens, the guild members who come to investigate will suspect something strange. He then looks at Pierre, lying wounded on the ground. Marnak kneels beside him, saying he will end things properly so Pierre can rest in peace. He decides to save Pierre, believing it will help his reputation, and questions the mother of corruption to stop the progression of Pierre's wounds. The scene changes and we see a priest named Pridya, holding a relic, questions a man about the one who stole it. The man explains that the thief was executed on the spot. She asks what happened to the body, and he replies that due to lack of supplies, they had to return only with the relic. Priest Pridya dismisses him and announces that she plans to go on a pilgrimage. The man is surprised and asks if it's because of the prophecy. Priest Pridya confirms, saying it's because of the prophecy and because there's someone she needs to meet. She recalls that 10 years ago, every religious order received the same prophecy: the end will wear the husk of life and descend upon the world. On the other hand, Marnak carries Pierre's body on his shoulder and hands him over to the guards. A girl named Erin approaches and informs him that he may return now, saying she already got permission from the guards. She admits she is surprised by his strength. Marnak simply agrees that he is a little strong. Erin points out the heads he is carrying, saying they are the source of the recent troubles, and suggests the guild keep them for now. Marnak asks if there is a vacant room in the city where he can stay for the night. Erin offers her place instead, telling him he can sleep there if he wants. As they talk, the mother of corruption keeps whispering, "Murder." Marnak holds the strange hand and already knows what is going on. He accepts it because he has no bad intentions toward the young woman with red hair. He only meant to rest in the guest room of the mercenary guild. Soon after, the red-haired girl arrives and tells him that there is something important he needs to attend to. She informs him that the Lord of Guise, Tridon Filion, wants to see him. Marnak does not mind and asks why the Lord has requested him. She explains that Galad, the mercenary who recently died, was actually the Lord's half-brother. Marnak visits the Lord. The Lord welcomes him and asks if he was the one who saw his brother's last moments. He offers him tea. Marnak observes him carefully and recalls that when Mother first saw the Lord, she drew a large X mark. Marnak realizes the Lord is not a living being. He is a demon disguised as a human. While Mother was hiding in Marnak's pocket, she recognized it immediately. Marnak knows that demons can take human form but cannot live freely on their own. To exist in the world, they must make deals with living beings. Demons are strong, yet helpless without others. They form contracts to share power and survive. But the gods hated them for giving and taking equally. The gods declared demons to be evil and ordered their priests to hunt them. That marked the beginning of the demon hunts. Marnak remembers that in the game world the demon contractor was a rare and difficult class. People avoided it, and he remembers it being the second class he ever played. The Lord smiles, impressed that Marnak can see through his disguise. He introduces himself as Crawling Weight and realizes Marnak is not truly a priest of the goddess of preservation. Marnak introduces himself as a priest of the Mother of Corruption. The Lord is surprised, believing the followers of corruption were long gone. He invites Marnak to sit, saying they are alone. The Lord explains that he has no special reason for calling Marnak except to ask about Galad's death. He requests the details and promises to give him a reward. Marnak agrees and later leaves the mansion. As he walks outside, he reflects on how unfortunate Galad's death was. The Lord tried to help him by offering secret work during the harsh winter, but it led to his end. Marnak thinks about how life is complicated and cruel. Then, the voice of the Mother of Corruption echoes, saying, "Murder." Marnak looks at the pouch of gold in his hand. He knows that the Lord did not try to tempt him with it. The gold was simply a sincere gesture to know the truth about Galad's death. Marnak reminds himself that he is not a priest who is greedy for gold. He thinks about how gold never rots and compares it to something else that also never fades. His love for the Mother of Corruption. To him, she will always be the most important being. He tells her not to worry. When he returns, Eren greets him. The voice of the Mother of Corruption echoes in his head, whispering the word, murder. Eren then tells him that priests from the teaching sect are here. Marnak becomes uneasy, not wanting to deal with those kinds of people right now. As he turns to look at them, he is startled. The Mother of Corruption immediately warns him that one of the priests is carrying a holy relic. The group of priests introduces themselves as members of the education sect. Their leader, Priest Orvis, represents the scale of retribution. With him are Priest Kornu, a large man, and Priest Patina. Marnak pretends to be polite and introduces himself as a priest serving the god of preservation. Eren explains that the priests are also staying at the guild, just like him. Marnak feels relieved. That means he will have chances later to steal their relic. However, he worries that when he absorbs the divinity from it, the corruption inside him might leak out. Before they can talk further, Priest Orvis mentions that they need to go greet the Lord. Marnak is curious about their reason for visiting. Eren explains that their guild provides shelter to priests for a small fee. Marnak jokingly asks if he has to pay for his stay, but Eren says she let him stay for another reason. She quietly asks him to bless their food with preservation magic so it does not spoil. Priest Kornu approaches them. He stays behind instead of going with the others, explaining that many northern lords dislike his kind. Eren remarks that Lord Tredin is different. He separates his work from personal feelings and has many supporters in Guise. When Marnak questions why they want to meet him, Priest Kornu reveals that they are following a prophecy from 10 years ago about the end of the world hidden inside the shell of life. They believe it refers to a demon. Priest Orvis wants to confirm it using his holy relic. At that moment, the Lord finally reveals his true demonic form. Priest Orvis releases his power and calls upon the scale of retribution to strike the demon. A massive blast shakes the city. The ground trembles and buildings collapse from the force. A blinding light flashes across the sky and the explosion can be seen from far away. Priest Kornu recognizes the power as Priest Orvis's hammer of punishment. He understands that Priest Orvis is fighting a demon and urges everyone to go help immediately. Marnak hurries and tells him to go first and promises to follow soon. As the others rush ahead, Marnak approaches Eren nearby. He holds her and demands to know where the medical center is, the one where Pierre is being treated. Eren hesitates, surrounded by the noise of screaming and the roar of the demon. After that, they step outside and the streets are in chaos. People run in every direction, smoke fills the air, and parts of the city burn. Eren looks around in terror and spots the huge demon tearing through the town's center. Marnak ignores the monster and repeats his question. Eren turns and points at a small building at the end of the street, explaining that Pierre is there. Marnak runs straight to the building. Inside, he finds Pierre lying on a bed, resting peacefully. Marnak lifts Pierre carefully into his arms and holds him securely. He tells Eren she must hold on tightly because he cannot carry her anymore. She quickly wraps her arms around him. Marnak runs through the burning streets with Pierre on his back. As they move, Eren shouts that she knows a secret passage. Marnak immediately asks where it is. Eren points down another place and explains that a house has a hidden tunnel leading to the outskirts of Gies, but the door is locked. Marnak changes direction and sprints toward the house. When they arrive, he kicks the door once, and it bursts open with a loud crack. Eren stares in shock, realizing his strength. Marnak tells her that if things get worse, she must escape through the passage alone. She looks terrified and asks about him. Marnak replies that he has to go back and help the others. She tries to stop him, pleading that it is too dangerous, but he ignores her. When Marnak returns to the battlefield, rubble covers the ground. The air is thick with smoke and dust. He finds Priest Cornu trapped under the rubbles. His body is covered in deep wounds, and his breathing is weak. He recognizes Marnak and tries to speak. Marnak checks his wounds and realizes they are too severe to heal. He asks about the other priest. Priest Cornu weakly reveals that Priest Patina is dead. Marnak demands to know if there is any way to kill the demon. Priest Cornu explains that the white sword, another relic they brought, was stabbed into the demon's head by Priest Orvis. If Marnak can push that sword deeper into its brain, the demon will die. After saying this, Priest Cornu exhales for the last time. Marnak bows his head slightly and prays to the Mother of Corruption, declaring that he will collect from the dead man. A status window appears, stating that he has obtained 100 divinity. Meanwhile, Priest Orvis continues to fight with the demon. The ground shakes and his voice echoes as he calls upon the scales of retribution again. Marnak sees an opening when the demon slows. He charges forward, leaps high into the air, lands on the demon's massive body, and drives his sword deep into its flesh. The creature roars in pain and thrashes violently. Marnak grips tightly, climbing higher toward its head. He sees Priest Orvis still fighting and reaches the top, spotting the white sword embedded in the demon's skull. He reaches for it, but the demon spins violently, performing a deadly roll. The sudden movement throws Marnak off balance. He flies through the air, crashes to the ground and rolls across the rubbles. The voice of the Mother of Corruption echoes, repeating the word, murder. Marnak answers calmly that he is fine. He looks at the raging demon and recalls her words that blessings follow disasters. He considers this an interesting twist. His eyes catch the glint of something among the rubble, a small jewel. He picks it up and realizes it is a holy relic. Holding it tightly, he looks upward and speaks to the Mother of Corruption, offering her the relic and asking for new authority in return. Marnak holds the relic tightly and commands it to release its seal. He calls out to the Mother, feeling the divine energy surge through his body. He realizes that every holy relic holds enough divinity for one authority. The status window in front of him glows, showing that his divinity has reached 11,723. He understands that another seal has been lifted and wonders what difference it will make this time. The Mother of Corruption keeps whispering the same word, murder, over and over again. The hand reaches out from the relic and Marnak questions if her words are true. He feels both grateful and uneasy, thinking that it is incredible she can still support him from so far away. But he also finds it strange that unsealing a holy relic feels so small compared to her vast power. Marnak devotes 10,000 units of divinity and requests 2 new authorities. Then, he feels a surge of energy flowing through him. He receives something called the Text of Corruption. As he studies its power, he learns that its effects are simple but incredibly strong. When activated, dark green tattoos appear all over his body, glowing faintly. These marks amplify his physical strength and speed. He admits to himself that it is not a bad authority to have, especially in the middle of battle. The mother of corruption continues to repeat her single word, murder, but Marnak stays focused. He realizes the new power will be useful in his current fight. He also notices that his crushed leg has completely healed. Then, he spots Priest Orvis lying dead under the rubble. It looks like both of them fell from the same height during the explosion. Marnak lowers his head slightly and offers a short thought of rest for the fallen priest. He then prays to the mother of corruption again and begins to collect divinity from Priest Orvis's body. Not far away, the demon roars in rage, shaking the ruined city. Marnak watches it go wild, its enormous body tearing through the remains of buildings. He finds it strange. The people who angered the demon, the priests of the teaching sect, are already dead. Yet the creature is still raging uncontrollably. A message flashes before him, showing that he has obtained 1,000 more units of divinity. He reflects that demons are not supposed to be beasts driven by pure instinct, yet this one is acting like a mindless monster. Marnak tells the mother of corruption to hold on. As he runs, the demon senses his approach and swings its massive tail. Marnak moves with incredible agility, dodging the strike and sprinting up the creature's back. As he climbs higher, he notices the white sword still embedded in the demon's body. He focuses on reaching it, but the demon begins to tilt dangerously to one side. It's preparing another death roll, a spinning attack that can crush anything around it. Anticipating this move, Marnak leaps off just in time and lands safely on the ground as the demon spins violently, smashing everything nearby. Suddenly, a massive explosion erupts across the city. The blast shakes buildings, shatters windows, and fills the air with dust and smoke. Marnak coughs and spits blood, realizing the corruption inside him is progressing faster than expected. The text of corruption may be powerful, but it is also consuming his body from within. He feels his organs burning and senses his life force draining. If the demon keeps delaying the fight, the corruption will soon reach the outside of his body and completely paralyze him. He understands that he does not have much time left. Determined to end it quickly, Marnak charges forward and grabs the hilt of the white sword lodged in the demon. He remembers Priest Cornu's dying words and strikes the sword against the demon's head, channeling both his divinity and corruption through it. The weapon trembles violently and divine light bursts from its core. He calls upon the spirit sealed within the sword, awakening Lord Tredin. The people nearby watch in disbelief as the once demonic creature returns to its original human form. In the middle of the chaos, a human figure, Lord Tredin, begins to emerge from the fading mass of corruption. The Lord opens his eyes and tells Marnak that meeting him was the greatest blessing he could have asked for. Marnak explains that it only happened because the white sword was suppressing Tredin's mind all this time. He mentions that his help was not much, just his small contribution, his 2 golds worth. The Lord smiles faintly and tells him it was worth far more than that. At the place where Marnak was once killed, Priest Pridya uses her divine power and the relic begins to glow brightly. The man with her becomes shocked as the light spreads across the ground. He recognizes the power and admits that it truly is an incredible authority. However, he notices something strange. There are no bodies. He remembers clearly that he had killed the boy here by cutting his throat. After looking around, he concludes that a long time must have passed. Perhaps monsters or wild animals have taken the body away. Priest Pridya listens calmly, thanks him for guiding her to this place, and then asks him for one last favor, to tell her the names of the nearby cities. Meanwhile, Marnak returns from the battlefield. Lord Tredin greets him warmly, calling him more handsome each time they meet. People now refer to Marnak as the Demon Slaughterer, a title that has spread across towns thanks to the stories shared by Tredin. Lord Tredin told everyone that Marnak was the one who defeated the great demon and saved him, earning Marnak fame that he never asked for. Though he finds the nickname exaggerated and embarrassing, Erin seems to love it as she often shouts Demon Slaughterer in public, drawing attention wherever they go. Crowds whisper among themselves, pointing at him as the famous priest who defeated a demon. Marnak talks to the man again and notices that his wooden prosthetic arm and leg move very smoothly, almost like real limbs. Curious, Marnak asks about it, and Lord Tredin explains that he only moves naturally like this when alone with Marnak. Around others, he pretends to limp. He also reveals that using this ability comes with a heavy cost. His body will weaken over time, and even the hair on his head will fall like leaves in autumn. Despite the burden, he laughs it off and changes the subject. He tells Marnak that there is an important job available and asks if he has a week to spare. Marnak agrees that he has enough time. Lord Trident explains that the job requester asked for Marnak specifically after hearing tales of his deeds as the demon slaughterer. The mission involves exploring ruins connected to the holy relics of the ancient empire. The payment is generous, 5 gold nips in advance, and if Marnak provides valuable help, he could even receive one of the relics found in the ruins. However, Marnak hears the voice of the mother of corruption whispering the word murder. He considers her warning carefully but decides to see for himself. He accepts the job, thinking it may lead him closer to understanding the relics and their connection to divinity. Marnak recalls that long ago the ancient empire ended the chaotic era of mages and united the continent through power and technology. Their relics, preserved through time, now serve as sacred treasures. In the current age, these relics are valued as powerful items, many of which are the foundation of high-ranked artifacts across the world. After that, Marnak meets a small group of people at the starting point of his new mission. He introduces himself as a priest under the goddess of preservation. One of the men steps forward and introduces himself as Carmen Valtis, the one who requested this job. Carmen openly explains that he is the illegitimate son of Anthony Valtis, leader of the Black Wolves. Marnak becomes surprised as he had believed Anthony to be a principled man who lived alone after losing his wife. It becomes clear to Marnak that rumors and reality often differ. Still, he decides it would be improper to dig deeper into Carmen's personal life. Marnak then asks about the others in the group. Carmen introduces a hooded mage named Tunisa, who will guide them to the ancient relics, and Sukus, a large and reliable warrior from the Unicorn tribe. With introductions complete, Carmen announces that they should begin their journey. He explains that it will take about 2 days on foot to reach the site of the ruins, and they can continue their conversations along the way. 2 days pass on the road. During the night, while the group rests, Carmen notices that Marnak is still awake. He comments on it, but Marnak reassures him that he has slept enough and does not feel tired. Carmen observes that Marnak still looks young and then begins a casual conversation. He asks about Marnak's experiences with women, assuming that a man like him must have met many. Marnak explains that his heart is as untouched as fresh snow, which surprises Carmen. He then asks about the kind of women Marnak prefers. Marnak answers simply that he likes women who choose to stay by his side. Carmen agrees and shares his own thoughts about women. He believes that a woman's heart is the most important thing but jokes crudely about appearances. Marnak responds calmly, telling him it is fine to have clear preferences but advises him not to speak about such things in front of women. Carmen laughs and assures him that he does not go around saying these things to everyone. He explains that he feels comfortable talking this way only with Marnak because it feels like speaking with an old friend. Marnak feels the same, even as the voice of the mother of corruption whispers the word murder. Marnak thinks about how much he enjoys talking to Carmen, despite being warned to be selective with his friends. As the sun rises on the 3rd day, the group finally reaches their destination. Tunisa steps forward and announces that they have arrived at the entrance to the ruins. She prepares to open the way inside, signaling that the mission is about to truly begin. After that, Marnak explains that entering the ruins of the ancient empire is easy at first. They have to find the key, move to the coordinates written on it, read the passage in the ancient language, and then turn the key clockwise or anti-clockwise. Since only mages can read ancient language, their role in such explorations is indispensable. The only exception is players. As a player, Marnak can read the ancient language but keeps it a secret. While entering the ruins of the ancient empire, Marnak thinks that in this world where he has no relation whatsoever, the key is too difficult for him to obtain. Carmen comments that compared to all the other ruins he has visited, this is one of the best preserved ones and suggests starting the exploration. Marjan feels excited and thinks that he finally gets to see the ruins he has only seen in photos. His heart feels like it is going to burst. They reach a giant gate with ancient text written on it, saying to prove that imperial blood flows through your body. The door opens, and Tunisia warns that if they do not have ancient imperial blood, they should get ready for battle. Inside, they all fight with monsters. A huge blast occurs, and Marnak prepares himself, holding his sword. While fighting, a monster comes to attack him, and the mother of corruption keeps repeating the word murder. Marnak fights back and thinks that there is one more monster left, and he needs to kill it before then an arrow hits the monster in the head. Marnak sees Carmen shooting it. Marnak thanks him, and Tunisia complains, asking why he keeps pushing the enemy between their lines. She says that Marnak or she could have gotten hurt. Marnak replies that it was the fastest way to get rid of the enemy and that they managed to kill all of them anyway. He prefers it if she stops complaining. Carmen gets furious and asks what he said. Marnak tells them to stop right there. Sukus and Tunisia stay quiet. Carmen looks at Marnak and calls him Demon Slayer, saying that he really lives up to his name. Marnak responds that he feels ashamed to display such an unholy sight as a priest. Carmen admits that he is not wrong about that. Marnak compliments Carmen for being incredible with the bow. Carmen explains that he has been using the bow and arrow since he was little and practiced as much as he could. Tunisia then asks when they are leaving and says she is fine with moving out immediately since she has plenty of waka left. Sukus complains, asking why she keeps rushing to move when they have barely gotten any rest. He says that for those who physically move around like Marnak and him, they need rest. Tunisia insists that everyone else would agree with her. She says that since everyone except Sukus is fine, it would be better to reach the end of the ruins as soon as possible rather than wasting time. She believes Sukus is just trying to make a scene. Sukus gets angry and asks what she said. Carmen steps in and says they will rest before moving, ending the argument. Marnak thinks that in this world, mages are usually arrogant and are mostly a bunch of jackasses. It is easy to become a mage, and it happens by birth. For those born with mana, it awakens once they reach a certain age. When that happens, knowledge regarding the ancient language floods their brains, and without paying any cost, they learn ancient spells. Using mana that breaks the laws of the world, they are reborn as mages. However, because of the large amount of knowledge that fills their heads, they begin to hate learning new things. As a result, most mages become strong-willed and uneducated idiots. Most are self-centered and do not care about people around them. Marnak thinks that Tunisia is the same as the other mages he has met. Though among mages, she is actually considered one of the more well-mannered ones. Carmen later says that they have rested enough and should move on to the next area. Just then, the door closes behind them, and a monster appears with a blue jewel, a relic. Marnak immediately realizes that the enemies up to this point were too weak for ruins like this. He understands that this one is the real deal. Sukus prepares himself to fight the monster. Tunisia tells him to move aside. The monster stands tall in front of them, its blue jewel, the relic, begins to shine, and Carmen becomes alert. The monster suddenly attacks Sukus, and a huge blast shakes the ground. Sukus is injured and starts bleeding heavily. Marnak turns to Carmen and asks if he wants to live. Carmen is confused, asking what he means. Marnak repeats the question, and when Carmen answers yes, Marnak tells him to tuck his chin in. Before Carmen can react, Marnak punches him hard, knocking him unconscious. Marnak looks at the monster and remarks that he has a corruption giant on his side too. He prays to the mother, saying that he needs her to send it down now. The monster steps forward and launches a massive attack. Marnak dodges and escapes the impact, asking the mother of corruption if she agrees with him. The mother of corruption's voice echoes in his head, repeating the same word over and over: murder. The status window shows that he has obtained 1000 divinity. Marnak stands with Carmen, who is still unconscious, beside him. He looks toward another part of the ruins and sees another monster locked in battle. He curses quietly, realizing that it will take some time for them to finish their fight. The mother of corruption continues whispering murder. Marnak replies to her in thought, saying that she is right. It's time to stop messing around and help. The corruption giant turns toward him, watching curiously as Marnak moves forward. He focuses his eyes on his next target, the monster, and the blue gem embedded in its head. He thinks that since the gem is the only unique part of its body, destroying it might change everything. Marnak leaps high into the air and targets the monster's head. As he strikes, the blue gem shatters into fragments. The monster lets out a deafening roar. Marnak catches his breath and silently thanks the corrupted giant for its help. A strange hand suddenly appears again, the mother of corruption's presence showing itself as the voice repeats, "Murder." Marnak looks around in confusion, asking the mother of corruption what is wrong. He watches in shock as monsters start to emerge from the glowing red passageway in the ground. Carmen is stunned, unable to understand what's happening. Marnak looks around and wonders how many more monsters might appear. Once the chaos settles, Carmen turns to Marnak and asks about Tunisia and Sukus, wanting to know if they are still alive. Marnak lowers his head and says yes, they are dead. He explains that he wanted to save them if he had the chance, but it all happened too fast. Carmen listens quietly and says that the moment the metal giant fell from the ceiling, they should have activated the key. He admits that Tunisia and Sukus were new hires, people he had only just met, but they both died because of his greed. Marnak tells him not to blame himself too much. He reminds Carmen that they were hired for a reason and knew the risks. They understood that something like this could happen. Carmen asks where exactly they are now. Marnak replies that this place is beyond the black door. Carmen looks puzzled and says that it would not be right to question something that Marnak was willing to knock him out over just to stop him from seeing. He acknowledges that Marnak is his lifesaver and swears in the name of Valtus that he will repay the debt someday. Marnak accepts it calmly and says he'll be looking forward to it. If Carmen feels better, he says, they should start moving again. Marnak admits that he did not truly defeat the metal giants, he ran away from them. Carmen agrees and follows his lead. Marnak recalls what really happened. After defeating one metal giant with the help of the corruption giant, 3 more fell from the ceiling. He let the corruption giant take the beating from them while he struggled to open the doors. After finally managing to unlock them, he kicked Carmen into the next room for safety. He also told the corruption giant to return once its fight was over, so he is sure it will come back soon. After some time, Marnak and Carmen reach a large ancient door. Marnak looks at it carefully and says that it seems they've finally reached the end of the ruins. He tells Carmen to feel free to take a look. Marnak and Carmen find a glowing necklace and a sword there. Carmen asks Marnak to let him have the necklace, promising to reward him handsomely for it. Marnak asks what the necklace actually is. Carmen explains that it's called the Bloodline Pathfinder. If someone spills their blood on it while thinking of a specific bloodline, the necklace uses that blood as a cost to point them toward the person they are seeking. Carmen admits that he is looking for his mother, someone he has never met before. Marnak asks if it's fine for him to take the sword instead, and Carmen agrees. Later, while they rest outside, Carmen shows the necklace to Marnak and asks him for a blessing. Marnak agrees without hesitation. He takes a small cut on his hand, lets a few drops of blood fall onto the necklace, and watches as red energy begins to glow from it. Carmen looks at the light and says that he knew his mother was alive. Marnak replies that he is glad the necklace is working as expected. Carmen asks if Marnak will listen to one last favor. Marnak agrees, and Carmen says that he would like to keep working with him until he finds his mother. Since Marnak is heading west, they can travel together to the capital where Carmen can properly reward him. Marnak smiles and thinks that although he'd love to accept, Carmen would probably see through his intentions immediately and think him shallow. He remarks that if Carmen is fine with it, he'll help him find his mother and support him on the journey. Meanwhile, the mother of corruption whispers the same word again and again, murder. Some time later, Erin meets Marnak and asks if he is really leaving already after everything she has done for him. She takes his hand and examines it, saying that it usually does not come out this quickly but that she did everything she could to get it ready. Marnak's hand begins to shine and Erin reveals a silver mercenary plate. She proudly tells him that she made sure it was ready as soon as possible. She hints that Marnak should say something, like a promise to come back and visit her. Marnak thinks living the life of a wanderer means any promise like that would only be one he cannot fulfill. Later, Lord Triton meets Marnak and tells him that he heard he is heading to the capital. He says that while he would have preferred to repay him with money, he has none left after using all his funds to repair the damage in Geese. Instead, he offers Marnak a letter of recommendation. He explains that if Marnak encounters trouble, he can seek help from one of his friends in the capital. Though they're difficult people to deal with, so it's better to visit them only if absolutely necessary. Marnak thanks him for the gift, and Lord Treaton smiles, telling him to think of it as gratitude from a friend. He wishes Marnak a good life, reminding him that life is always too short. Days later, Marnak and Carmen walk along a snowy path. Carmen mentions that it's already been a few days since they left Greece and that they have about half a day left before reaching the next town, Kelton. Carmen thinks that the mother still does not like Carmen much, but the only reason she allows him to travel with him is because Carmen, as a human, is rated 3.5 fingers. If Marnak were to harvest divinity from him, he could gain 10,000, enough for an authority. That kind of value could even develop into a 4-finger human. Despite this, Marnak admits that he likes Carmen's cheerful personality and personally would rather keep him alive. He holds his sword suddenly, sensing danger. Carmen notices him and asks what's wrong. Marnak replies that there's blood nearby. Very close, and it's coming toward them. He pushes Carmen aside just as a giant snow spider leaps out from the air, landing in front of them. Marnak raises his sword and begins to fight the creature. Marnak remarks that the next time he uses this sword, he'll need to find a place to clean it first. It splatters far too much. Priest Pridya visits Lord Treaton. Lord Treaton welcomes her and asks why she has come. She shows him a picture and asks if he has seen the man in it. The man is Marnak. Lord Treaton recognizes him but hides it. He asks who the man is and why the blue flame of the torch sect is searching for him. Pridya tells him it is for personal reasons. Lord Treaton lies and says no one comes to mind, then tells her to return if that is all. After she leaves, he thinks her intentions toward Marnak are not good. After defeating the snow spider, Marnak looks at Carmen, who is cutting the monster's body. Carmen explains that he is removing the venom sac. The venom's anesthesia effect is strong and can be used in many ways. It is valuable and can be applied to arrow tips or sold as it is. Marnak asks how Carmen knows such things. Carmen explains he has been in many monster hunts before and that experience is the best teacher. Marnak notices how messy the extraction is and decides to do it himself since he is already covered in blood. Carmen tells him they are half a day away from Kelton. He plans to teach Marnak how to extract it properly when they arrive. He suggests heading to the city for a shower. When they reach Kelton, the guards stop them at the gate. One guard informs them that the city has been closed for 3 days because of monsters. But another guard approaches and says that Lord Stren wants to meet them. Inside, Marnak meets Lord Stren and tells him he already knows about the monster issue. Lord Stren explains that the problem is not only monsters. It is being controlled by a follower of an evil spirit. Marnak questions if it is possible for one worshipper to cause such a large-scale situation. Lord Stren explains that according to priests, there are 4 different sects involved. They are working together to isolate Kelton from other cities. He says Kelton is an ordinary place, and he does not understand why this is happening after he became the new lord. He admits things would have been different if his father were alive. Lord Stren continues that they have enough supplies and good morale among their soldiers. Still, no one outside knows the city is cut off. He says someone needs to pass through the monsters to inform other cities. It is a dangerous mission, almost a suicide task. Marnak agrees to help as much as possible. However, the mother of corruption keeps saying, "Murder." Marnak argues with her silently, frustrated. He reminds her that they will receive a rare item from the Seekers of Flow, something from the Western Desert. It will help them handle the weapon known as Slayer without leaving a mess. He remembers her own advice about how to use it properly. He tells himself that living life to the fullest is what matters most. Deep down, Marnak knows the real reason he accepted the Lord's request. He believes this may be a sign that the main quest of his journey is beginning. He connects it to the strange fact that 4 sects of evil spirit worshippers are working together. He recalls that in the world he knows, evil spirits are not truly evil by nature. They are just gods labeled as such by the main deities, leading to persecution and hatred. Still, he knows followers of these spirits are often unstable and rarely cooperate with one another. That is why he feels something bigger is happening. For so many sects to unite and surround a city is far from ordinary. Later, while traveling, Marnak and Carmen are ambushed again by snow spiders. Marnak realizes this is the moment he has been waiting for. He decides to distract the monsters and draw their attention. Carmen warns him that facing them all at once is too dangerous. Marnak tells her that if they keep running, they will be caught eventually. He tells her to bring reinforcements while he buys time. Then he leaps from the horse, falling onto the snow-covered ground. The snow spiders rush toward him. He thinks that the mother of corruption is impossible to understand. She finds his situation entertaining. Marnak grabs his sword tightly, ready to fight. He focuses his mind and prepares for what comes next. He decides it is time to begin hunting the real enemies, the hidden worshippers of the evil spirits who are controlling everything from the shadows. Marnak faces a group of snow spiders. He slashes through them with his sword, cutting them down one by one. He feels irritated by the constant battles and thinks that if this keeps happening every day, he might need to carry a bathtub with him just to clean off the mess. The voice of the mother of corruption echoes in his head, whispering murder repeatedly. Marnak continues forward, realizing that his enemies must already know he is coming but still choose not to confront him. He feels slighted by the lack of welcome, finding it unbelievable that this is how he is being treated. He enters the tunnels, remembering that the attacked carriages reported earlier were said to be empty. He concludes that the monsters must have looted them completely. Soon, he finds a dried corpse on the ground. The body is drained of every drop of blood by the snow spiders. He observes the scene with distaste, noting that while he understands them feeding on humans, using the remains as decoration is beyond his acceptance. He silently disapproves of their gruesome design choices. Marnak stays alert and assures himself that he won't let his guard down. He studies the area and counts the bodies lying around. There are far too many corpses for the spiders to have eaten within just 3 days. He starts to suspect they may be raising offspring somewhere inside. As he advances, he notices that the tunnels are massive, large enough for multiple giants to live together. He can feel a constant flow of divinity tracking his movements, something watching him closely. He stops and calls out for the presence to reveal itself. A giant snow spider emerges from the shadows, its many eyes glowing blue in the darkness. Marnak stands ready, aware of its presence all along. The creature lunges at him, and a powerful blast shakes the tunnel. Marnak then calls upon the mother of corruption, requesting her authority to draw the line of corruption. He promises to sacrifice the head of the human-eating spider for her. The corruption giant appears beside him, formed from dark divine energy, and charges toward the monstrous spider. The snow spider attacks with its massive legs, forcing the corruption giant to defend itself. Marnak notices that the creature is nearly double the size of a normal giant. He realizes he needs to help his summoned giant somehow. A flash of sharp light slices through the air and strikes the spider's side. Marnak senses that the energy within the spider's body is concentrated around its core. He carefully plans his strikes and the spider attacks again, but Marnak moves swiftly and cuts it cleanly in half. As he fights, he detects the divinity spread throughout its entire body. He decides to remove all its legs to immobilize it completely. Marnak commands the corruption giant to charge straight ahead while he focuses on cutting the thinner parts of the spider's body. Even though the creature is huge, Marnak reminds himself that a spider is still a spider. He slashes at its weakest point. A violent explosion follows his final strike. The snow spider's body tears apart, scattering flesh and divine residue across the tunnel. Suddenly, a strange figure emerges from within the torn spider body. Marnak immediately realizes that it is a person who had been controlling the spider from inside. The figure complains that it took years to gain control over the Spider Queen and that Marnak destroyed all that work. Marnak stands firm and demands to know the figure's purpose for surrounding the city of Kelton. The figure refuses to answer, spitting insults instead. Marnak strikes him once, demanding the truth again. The figure still resists, swearing he will never tell even if it costs his life. Understanding that Marnak won't get an answer, he swiftly beheads the figure. A message appears before Marnak's eyes, showing that he has gained 1,000 divinity. He reflects for a moment, thinking about how many worshippers of evil gods exist like this one, people who would rather die than reveal the truth. He wonders aloud how many of them will ever confess the real reason behind their schemes. He recalls hearing that there are more than 3 followers like this. With a cold smile, he decides to bet on there being 4. Marnak comes out and sees everything burning. The buildings are destroyed, the ground is covered with ashes, and dead bodies lie everywhere. He realizes the enemies have attacked and that the battle is already lost. Over the body of Lord Stren, a girl named Parna stands and mocks him. She calls him a useless lord who ran away like a coward and says that the people who tried to protect him only wasted their time. A guy nearby questions about the incarnation. The other girl answers that it is unstable. She explains that taking divinity from living people is very hard and that they already lost some captives. Their plan is now weaker, and they must finish it sooner than planned. Parna gets angry and remarks she did her best, but was disturbed by strong monks and a man from the teaching sect. She curses a girl named Layla for not sending her spiders to help and blames an archer who escaped. The other girl laughs and says Layla is always late and only likes to play with dead bodies. The guy tells them to stop fighting. He reminds them that they worked for years on this plan and that now, because someone escaped, soldiers will come after them. Parna yells that she worked hard for 3 years too, and does not like being treated like a failure. However, the guy tells them she will stay quiet if Layla is punished for losing the captives. Suddenly, Marnak appears and strikes them without warning. His sword cuts through the flames, killing 2 of them instantly. He remarks that it may seem unfair to kill them like this, but they are dangerous. They can control divinity, and he cannot risk being injured. He tells the mother of corruption that it is better to act first than lose his life. Parna watches him, confused, wondering why he talks to himself. Marnak turns to her and asks why they surrounded the city of Kelton. After that, Parna watches a huge creature appears. Its body is made of flesh and divine energy. Marnak stares at it and thinks it looks more powerful than he expected. Parna claims that they spent 3 years creating it and that it was worth all the time. She then tells him everything. The cult had been hiding in the city for 3 years. Their plan was to sacrifice all the people and make a ball of divine energy called the Incarnation. They were supposed to wait 5 more days before finishing it, but because they lost some captives, including Carmen, they had to start early. That failure caused all the chaos and fire. Marnak tightens his grip on his sword. He decides to destroy the creature before it wakes up completely. Parna tries to stop him. She warns that if the being is harmed, it will wake up in a wild and unstable form. Her warning comes true. The monster suddenly roars, shaking the ground. The mother of corruption whispers the word, murder. Marnak answers in his mind, saying he knows there is a holy relic inside the monster. He plans to awaken a new authority by sacrificing the creature to her. Parna screams that it will not work, but Marnak ignores her. He charges forward and attacks. The creature thrashes and releases a huge wave of divine energy. When the light fades, Parna is dead. The system window shows that Marnak has gained 1,000 divinity. He checks his total and sees that he now has 8,592. He thinks that he only needs a little more to reach 10,000 and gain a new authority. But the creature begins to regenerate. Its body heals quickly, turning into a huge creature without a weak point. Marnak realizes he cannot kill it by cutting it. He decides to run away. He sheaths his sword and sprints through the burning city. The monster chases him, shaking the ground with every step. Another message appears, showing that he has gained 1 more divinity. Marnak thinks he just needs a bit more power. If he collects enough divinity before the monster catches him, he can awaken his new authority. Marnak runs away as a massive creature follows behind him. The ground shakes with every step it takes. The creature lets out a loud roar that echoes through the air. Marnak feels the vibration in his body and thinks that even the creature's voice carries divine power. To him, it is truly a walking disaster. The mother of corruptions keeps repeating the word murder over and over. Marnak looks back and sees the giant beast approaching fast. Realizing the danger, he calls out to the mother of corruption for help. On top of the creature's head, he notices a strange figure embedded on its head. Suddenly, the creature releases its power, and a huge explosion spreads across the field. The air burns, and dust flies everywhere. Marnak braces himself and thinks that one corruption giant will not be enough to fight this monster. He tells the corruption giant not to push itself too hard and promises to return soon. He thinks about how he needs more bodies, strong ones, like elite soldiers or knights, to strengthen his divinity. He rushes toward the burning town, where bodies lie scattered across the ground. He realizes too much time has passed for the corpses to still hold any power. He regrets not harvesting their divinity earlier when he was hunting the evil spirit worshippers. Checking his current strength, he finds his divinity count at 9,237. He thinks he just needs a bit more. He must gather more divine energy, no matter what. Suddenly, a massive blast shakes the ground again. The Mother of Corruption's voice echoes louder, still whispering murder. Marnak grips his sword tightly as something moves in the smoke. The creature bursts out, attacking him with incredible speed. Marnak reacts instantly, swinging his blade to block the assault. When the dust settles, the creature finally appears in full view, bigger and stronger. Marnak realizes it has grown after fighting the corruption giant. The creature prepares to attack Marnak again. Marnak moves forward, striking with precise, deadly cuts. His sword tears through its limbs, but the creature roars and catches Marnak in its limbs. It slams him onto the ground with crushing force. The earth cracks beneath him, pain shoots through his body, but Marnak forces himself to breathe. The Mother of Corruption keeps whispering murder, almost like a chant. Marnak smiles weakly, thinking that he is lucky to still be alive. He remembers something the evil spirit, Parna, once said about Lord Stren, calling him a useless lord who wasted their time. Marnak looks around and realizes this must be the same place Parna had talked about. Determined, he stands back up. He commands the Mother of Corruption to take all divine energy. The divine energy begins to rise. The system messages appear before him one after another, and finally, his divinity reaches 10,000. Marnak bows his head and offers the power to the Mother of Corruption. As her son, he asks her to bestow upon him a new authority. Darkness suddenly fills the area, swallowing the battlefield. The creature hesitates, confused by the sudden shift in power. Marnak's sword glows faintly in the dark. He focuses and prepares himself. The creature steadies, ready to continue the fight. Marnak activates his new ability, the Hole of Corruption. The ground under them begins to decay, turning into a swirling pit that decomposes anything living that steps inside. Marnak knows he is not immune to it, but he can control which parts of his body the corruption affects by using the text of corruption. He plans carefully, choosing to sacrifice the parts he does not need for battle. He watches the creature sink as the hole begins to devour its flesh. The air fills with a foul stench as its regeneration struggles against the power of decay. Marnak wonders which force is stronger, its healing or his new authority's destruction. The creature lunges one last time, roaring in desperation. Marnak meets the attack head-on, driving his sword deep into its body. Breathing heavily, Marnak looks down at the fallen beast. He whispers to the Mother of Corruption that he has done it. From the creature's remains, he retrieves a glowing ball, a holy relic. He offers it to the Mother of Corruption, asking her to lift its seal. A brilliant light shines, breaking through the darkness. As the glow spreads, Marnak sees the faint image of a young girl standing before him. He becomes confused and asks if the one she sees could truly be the Mother of Corruption. Marnak finally stands before the Mother of Corruption. He recognizes her immediately and feels both anger and awe. She appears in the form of a child, but her power is overwhelming. Marnak questions her about her strange form and wonders why she, a god, would not know the reason herself. He notices divine energy from another god flowing through the corpse of the fallen creature nearby. The sight fills him with curiosity. He wonders if it is possible to absorb that power. He thinks it would be a waste to let such divinity disappear. The Mother of Corruption tries to act, her power radiating darkly, but all she can do is repeat one word, murder. Her control seems unstable. Marnak looks at her calmly and tells her to stop forcing herself. He realizes that the divinities of several gods have mixed together, making it impossible to separate or claim them now. He feels disappointed but accepts that there is nothing more they can do. Holding the holy relic shaped like a glowing sphere, Marnak decides to take the next step. The seal within the relic has already been lifted, holding 10,000 units of divinity. He activates it and prays for a new authority from his divine mother. The ground trembles as an enormous burst of light erupts into the sky. A vast ball of divine energy forms at his feet, shaking the entire land. When the light fades, Marnak feels something new inside him, a new authority. He senses its purpose and realizes its terrifying potential. It is the curse of corruption. With it, every living thing within the range of a small city would slowly rot to death. The power feels dangerously close to pure evil. Marnak knows he could use it to destroy villains or the undead, but the thought of killing innocent people just to gain divinity fills him with disgust. He wonders aloud why the holy relic containing his mother's sealed divinity was found inside that incarnation in the first place. The thought troubles him. He suspects it was not a coincidence. Perhaps his mother's divine essence was what created that creature. The idea makes his head ache. Before he can think further, his body begins to fail. The overwhelming amount of divinity inside him takes its toll. His attacks, once strong, have now pushed his body past its limit. Marnak collapses, gasping for breath, unable to move. The mother of corruption, seeing Marnak's suffering, begins to weep silently. Her tears fall as Marnak loses consciousness. Days later, Marnak suddenly wakes up on a bed and watches Carmen. His body feels weak, but he can move again. Carmen is the first to greet him, relieved that he has finally regained consciousness. Marnak immediately panics and asks about his belongings. Carmen tries to calm him down and assures him that everything is fine. When Marnak insists again, Carmen shows him the strange, severed hand he always carries. Marnak feels an immense wave of relief, thinking he had lost it. Carmen explains that others wanted to throw the hand away, believing it was dangerous or useless, but he stopped them because he sensed it had deep meaning to Marnak. Grateful, Marnak thanks him sincerely. Carmen smiles and reminds him that if it weren't for his sacrifice during the battle, he would have died in Kelton. Marnak finally asks where they are. Carmen tells him they are still in Kelton, at his temporary shelter. When Marnak asks how long he has been unconscious, Carmen answers, 10 days. Marnak grows quiet. Then, hesitantly, he asks if there were any survivors from the city. Carmen looks down and replies that Marnak was the only one found breathing in the heart of Kelton. The entire city had been wiped out. Meanwhile, Priest Pridya walks through a snowy mountain path along with a group of captured bandits. She stops and executes a man who had tried to escape earlier. She burns him with sacred fire, his sins turning to ice under the holy flame. The other captives tremble in fear as she orders them to keep walking. Finally, they reach the gates of Kelton City. A guard approaches her and asks if she plans to hand the prisoners over. She confirms that it is what the bandits themselves want. The guard then informs her of recent news. The Lord of Kelton, who had offered bounties for the bandits, is dead, killed by worshippers of evil spirits. He adds that Priest Marnak, the one known as the Demon Slayer of Guise, defeated all the monsters and cultists they created. He fought fiercely, was unconscious for 10 days but finally woke up that morning. Hearing his name, Priest Pridya becomes attentive. Her eyes narrow as she repeats his name, Priest Marnak, the one who is called as the Demon Slayer. She questions the guard where he is now, wanting to know if he is still in Kelton. Inside a busy inn, people are talking about the priest, Marnak. One man calls him the enemy of all evil spirits and wonders where he might be. The crowd begins to celebrate Marnak's name, praising him as the arch-nemesis of evil spirits. Priest Pridya is also there and listens quietly while everyone talks about Marnak with admiration. Meanwhile, Marnak and Carmen leave the city quietly. As they walk down a snowy road, Marnak thinks he knows it would be foolish to stay in Kelton any longer. He remembers about Priest Pridya, the strongest among all humans he has met, the one rated 4.5 fingers. He thanks Carmen for agreeing to leave the city so suddenly. Carmen replies that it's better to leave early than attract attention. Marnak thinks about how much he likes Carmen's attitude and reliability. 2 weeks pass and the two travel together through snow-covered paths. Carmen suddenly notices a carriage in the distance and recognizes the crest marked on it, the white camellia flower, the symbol of the Iramel family. He explains that the Iramels are powerful nobles from the south. Marnak asks if they should greet them. but Carmen advises against it. He points out that the carriage lacks the Lord's flag, meaning it likely carries a relative or child of the High Lord. It's safer to quietly pass by instead of getting involved. As they walk past, Marnak senses a presence coming from inside the carriage. Carmen looks confused, but Marnak realizes someone inside is tied up. Before they can act further, a group of rough-looking men confronts them. One bald man threatens them, saying they should have stayed out of it. The men draw their weapons and move to attack. A sudden explosion occurs and one of the kidnappers is instantly killed, and the others freeze. Marnak steps forward, cutting down anyone who attacks. A man at a distance shouts angrily at his comrades, demanding that they finish the fight quickly, but panic spreads among them. Within moments, Marnak and Carmen defeat all the attackers. Marnak finds a young girl tied up inside the carriage. Carmen asks if he knows who she is, but Marnak shakes his head. The girl seems weak and barely able to move. He guesses she might have been drugged. Her breathing is shallow and her skin is pale from the cold. Carmen carefully observes her eyes and realizes they are gold. He quietly mentions that she could be a member of the Iramel family. Soon the girl regains some strength and introduces herself. She explains that she is Dakia Iramel, the eldest daughter of Kalto Iramel, also known as the Smiling Young Master. Carmen recognizes her name. If she really is Dakia, then she is not only a noble but also a mage. Marnak glances at her and thinks that dealing with a noble mage will surely be troublesome. The voice of the mother of corruption whispers one word: murder. Dakia thanks him for saving her and admits she is still too weak to walk properly because of the anesthetic gas she was forced to inhale. Carmen offers to help her walk. He introduces himself as Carmen Valtus, the son of Sir Entis Valtus. Dakia looks at him and remarks that if anyone saw the black prairie dog of the Valtus family traveling with her, it might cause rumors to spread in the capital. Despite her noble background, she remarks on her thoughtfulness, saying she only wants to be considerate. Marnak and Carmen, both surprised that Dakia, of her status, could be so polite and aware of others. As they continue walking, Carmen asks her what led to her kidnapping. Dakia explains that she doesn't have solid proof, but she suspects the crime was arranged by someone close to her. She believes her own brother, Derso Iramel, is behind the attack. He has always despised her and would benefit from her disappearance. Hearing this, Carmen asks Dakia about her brother. Dakia explains that she recently received a marriage proposal from the Dragon Kingdom. Since she is the next in line to become the head of her family, her brother is using the proposal as an excuse to get rid of her. Marnak quietly thinks about her words and realizes that nobles usually dislike mages, since for noble families, having a mage is considered a curse. The first reason is because of the nature of mages. They are hard to discipline, often arrogant, and difficult to control. Their power can easily cause accidents and scandals that harm noble reputations. The second reason comes from an ancient folktale. Long before the rise of the ancient empire, there was a time known as the Age of Twisted Mages. During that time, mages abused their power, bringing chaos to the world. Because of that story, most species now distrust mages and never allow them to hold political power. Dakia once said she was aiming for one of the 4 High Lord positions in the Northern Kingdom. Marnak remembers thinking how impossible it sounded unless she planned to kill her own brother to claim that title. Still, he finds her determination strange, yet interesting. Later, Dakia keeps repeating her story, and both Marnak and Carmen struggle to stay focused. She has already told the same story several times. Marnak gently reminds her that they are trying to listen, but it's hard when she keeps repeating herself. While she talks, her food burns on the fire. Marnak gives her some unburned meat and tells her to eat that instead. Dakia then makes a serious request. She asks them to take her to Betis, a region under the Iramel family's territory. Marnak already expects this request and listens silently. She offers to pay them their weight in gold if they escort her there. Marnak thinks that the High Lord's family really knows how to offer generous rewards. However, he also knows that accepting this escort mission means delaying Carmen's journey to find his mother. Deep down, he feels torn but decides to respect Carmen's choice. He is ready to give up the gold if Carmen wants to continue west. Meanwhile, the voice of the mother of corruption echoes, whispering, "Murder." Marnak sarcastically thinks she must be joking about wanting him to gain weight just to increase the payment. Even if she loves gold, she would not want her own son to become obese. Carmen finally decides that they will help Dakia. He says that since they have chosen to get involved, they will take full responsibility. It is the only way to uphold the honor of the Valtis name. The next day, Marnak, Carmen and Dakia continue traveling until Marnak finds a small village ahead. He tells everyone about it. When they reach it, Carmen arranges rooms for them on the 3rd floor of an inn. He even asks for warm bath water to be prepared. They all wash up and gather for dinner afterward. While they eat, Marnak notices a commotion nearby. A rude customer harasses a waitress, and the manager tries to stop him but fails. Before anyone can react, Dakia steps in and attacks the troublemaker. The entire inn's customers become shocked. Marnak quickly joins in and knocks down another man who tries to interfere. Carmen joins as well, frustrated that they act before consulting him. He reminds them that they are supposed to be a team. Dakia admits that she cannot stand watching injustice. She insists she has always been like this since childhood, unable to stay quiet when something wrong happens. Marnak observes that her problem is not anger management, it's righteousness management. After the fight, Carmen picks up the fallen man's gold pouch, but Marnak takes it from him and gives it to the inn manager instead. He tells him to use it to repair the damage and pay for anything that broke during the fight. The manager gratefully thanks them for helping and cleaning up the mess. Later that night, the inn becomes quiet. Marnak walks toward Dakia's room. He knocks softly on her door. When she opens it, he suddenly moves closer, holding her tightly to prevent her from reacting. He quietly warns her to stay silent so she does not wake Carmen in the next room. Marnak reminds Dakia of her earlier words about never ignoring injustice. He warns her that next time she must restrain herself because they are being chased and cannot draw attention. If she acts recklessly again, he might have to stop her by force and hand her over to their pursuers. He urges her to act wisely and consult him before taking action. After making his point, Marnak walks away, thinking that although his words may seem harsh, he needed to speak before a bigger problem appeared. He wonders if Dakia truly suffers from what he calls compulsive justice disorder. Meanwhile, in the Dragon Kingdom, the 3rd prince, Vadis Draco, becomes furious when he learns that Dakia has not been captured. The regional manager of the secret organization ILEH, named Hilden, nervously tries to explain. He claims there were unexpected complications and asks for more funding to continue. Draco loses his temper, reminding him of the large sum he already provided. When Hilden struggles to justify the extra cost, Draco strikes him and demands a detailed explanation. Knowing his life is at risk, Hilden blurts out that their failure is due to a priest named Marnak, a follower of the goddess of preservation. Draco becomes confused and questions how a single priest could cause such trouble. Hilden explains that Marnak is far from ordinary. He once defeated a demon that turned into a massive monster in geese using only one sword. Recently in Kelton, he single-handedly destroyed a creature formed by evil spirit worshippers who sacrificed an entire town. Because of these feats, people call him the arch-nemesis of evil spirits. Realizing the priest and Valtis's eldest son are now together with Dakia, Draco decides to fund Hilden again but warns him to succeed next time. However, Marnak is in his room and speaks with the mother of corruption. He admits that time has passed and he now feels regret, wondering if he was too harsh toward Dakia. He claims he only acted out of necessity, not malice, and that she is still their client, so he cannot afford to mistreat her. While he reflects on his actions, Dakia visits him late at night and politely asks to join him because she wants to talk. Marnak allows her and Dakia explains that she understood his warning as being connected to her identity as a mage. She has long seen that same expression of distrust and resentment from others, especially from those who suffered because of mages. Yet, unlike others who have looked at her with hate, Marnak's words were about cooperation, not revenge. She confides that although it will be difficult for her to ignore injustice, she will try to discuss it with him first. She came to make peace and assure him she will act more carefully. Marnak, realizing her sincerity, stops her before she leaves and apologizes for being too severe earlier. Dakia smiles, saying she is glad he is finally looking at her properly. not through the lens of prejudice. She asks if they are on good terms now, and he confirms it. She expresses excitement about their upcoming journey together. Marnak quietly accepts her words, acknowledging that his resentment toward mages blinded him for too long. After she leaves, he tells the mother of corruption that mages, despite their flaws, are still human. He reflects that he has begun facing the painful truth he once avoided, that his hatred toward mages has clouded his judgment. As calm returns to the inn, the peace is quickly broken when a group of bandits barges in. They confront the inn's manager, demanding that Marnak be brought to them immediately. Their leader shouts threats, declaring that if Marnak is not delivered, they will kill everyone in the place. Elsewhere, a man named Sajida notices something unusual while looking at a picture. He feels something is off about the situation. He sets aside the request to capture the maiden of the Iramel family, the one with silver hair and golden eyes, and focuses on the priest in the image. The realization hits him that the man in the picture is none other than Priest Marnak, the arch-nemesis of evil spirits. Soon after, another man rushes in to inform Sajida that the priest has arrived, but the girl is not with him. Sajida becomes astonished and demands to know where Marnak is. He wonders if the priest is planning to start a fight. Moments later, Marnak appears, holding the leader who was involved in the previous night's incident. Seeing him, Sajida quickly orders everyone to lower their swords. He approaches Marnak thoughtfully and confirms his identity. Marnak introduces himself, and Sajida realizes he is indeed the priest everyone talks about. He asks Marnak to put the man down. Marnak throws the man onto the ground and requests to meet the captain of the mercenary corps. Sajida introduces himself as the captain of the Red Bear Mercenary Corps. Later, during lunch, Sajida tries to ease the tension by offering Marnak some alcohol. Marnak politely refuses, saying he does not like drinking. Sajida internally feels disappointed because he had hoped a drink would make the conversation easier. Marnak then calmly explains that his colleague told him Sajida wanted to meet them about the incident that happened the previous day. As the conversation continues, Sajida debates how to approach the topic. He wonders if he should be direct or cautious. His group had been cursed by an organization called ILEH, and they were desperate to capture the maiden with silver hair and golden eyes. But confronting Marnak directly seems dangerous. Sajida knows Marnak's reputation. He is a terrifying priest who is known for being the enemy of evil spirits. The thought of fighting him makes Sajida uneasy, and he quietly blames the whole mess on his vice-captain, Pelguin. Soon, Pelguin himself storms in, confident and arrogant. He greets Marnak rudely and immediately asks if there is a woman with silver hair and golden eyes traveling with him. Marnak admits that there is. Pelguin, without hesitation, demands that Marnak hand her over to them and leave quietly. Sajida feels anger rising as Pelguin oversteps his place. Before the situation can calm down, Marnak steps forward and swiftly attacks, cutting Pelguin's arm clean off. Marnak finds it strange that these men already knew his name, even though he never introduced himself before. Chaos breaks out when one of the mercenaries shouts that Pelguin's arm has been severed. He orders everyone to gather at Sajida's barracks, telling them to prepare for battle. The men scream that Marnak does not understand the gravity of his actions and must be killed immediately. As Pelguin lies bleeding, he begs Sajida to save him. Marnak prepares to strike again, believing Pelguin would not answer his questions. He decides there is no need to spare him anymore. Just as Marnak moves to end it, Sajida intervenes, blocking the attack. Marnak is surprised that Sajida chooses to act. Sajida admits that although he was not planning to interfere at first, he and Pelguin share a long history that goes back 15 years. The battle escalates, and the mother of corruption whispers the word murder over and over. Marnak and Sajida clash fiercely. Sajida throws his weapon toward Marnak and orders for others to get away. But the mercenaries fall one by one as the fight grows more intense. Blood fills the air as Marnak moves with deadly precision, cutting through anyone who attacks him. Despite Sajida's efforts, his men are slaughtered. Marnak continues to dodge Sajida's attack with focus. He acknowledges her presence, saying he knows what must be done. He must find the person who ordered these mercenaries to hunt them down and bring that person to light. A man throws his weapon toward Marnak, but Marnak blocks it using a dead body as a shield. Sajida steps forward, ready to fight. He grips his weapon tightly and charges at Marnak. Their clash is fierce, the air shaking with every blow. Sagitta fights with all his strength and tells his men to go treat Pelguin, who is inside the tent. Marnak prepares his next move, clenching his fist. He punches Sagitta so hard that Sagitta crashes into the ground, creating a loud blast. Marnak smiles, feeling the thrill of a real fight after a long time. He walks towards Sagitta, impressed by his strength. Sagitta quickly commands his men to open fire. Arrows and bullets fly through the air, but Marnak moves fast, dodging them with skill. The voice of the mother of corruption keeps echoing the word, murder. Marnak realizes there is an archer nearby and thinks it would be dangerous if one of the arrows hits a joint. When the chaos ends, all of Sagitta's men are dead. Only Sagitta and Marnak remain standing, facing each other in dead silence. Sagitta slowly steps forward, ready to fight again. But Marnak looks calm. He tells Sagitta that his men have abandoned him. Sagitta stops, drops his weapon, and surrenders. He begs for his life, promising to tell Marnak everything he knows. Sagitta confesses that he hated Pelguin and had wanted to beat him up badly. But now that Pelguin is dead, he feels strangely empty. Marnak questions whether Sagitta hates him. Sagitta asks if Marnak would kill him if he said yes. Marnak coldly responds that there's no reason to keep someone alive if they hate him. Sagitta gives a faint smile and admits that he doesn't hate Marnak. He explains that as a mercenary, he has worked with men who killed his companions just the day before. It's part of the life they live, killing and being killed. He says he never became friends with them, but he also didn't hold grudges. That's why he doesn't hate Marnak. He only feels lonely now that his group has fallen apart. It was a failing organization anyway, and everything is over now. Marnak asks him what he plans to do next. Sagitta looks unsure and says he doesn't know. He has been living this way for 15 years, always surrounded by battle, never alone. Now that he feels lost. All he knows is how to fight, so he assumes he will go back to mercenary work again. Marnak tells him that next time he should try to find an employer who pays well. Sagitta looks confused and doesn't understand what Marnak means. Later the scene changes to evening. Sagitta is now sitting with Dakia at dinner. Marnak joins them and notices her mood. He asks if there are still bloodstains on him, and Dakia coldly replies that he cleaned up very well. Marnak senses bitterness in her tone. He realizes she is upset that he left without saying anything. He brings up their last conversation and asks if that's why she is angry. Dakia admits that after they talked the previous night, she thought their relationship had improved. She feels betrayed because Marnak told her they needed to discuss decisions together but then left on his own. Marnak asks if she has ever killed someone. Dakia looks shocked and says no, explaining that's why she let him go alone. She wanted to stay true to her principles. There had been fights before that led to deaths, but she still didn't want to cross that line. She tells Marnak that he could have at least told her he was leaving. She woke up feeling peaceful and even almost ate breakfast without knowing what he had done. Marnak thinks to himself that he left so she could enjoy that peace. Out loud, he promises to tell her everything from now on. Dakia smiles slightly and suggests they call it even since she also left without warning the day before. Marnak agrees. Suddenly, Carmen rushes into the room, breathing heavily. He looks alarmed and tells Dakia that Marnak went to negotiate with the mercenaries from yesterday. He insists they should grab weapons and go help immediately. Then Carmen stops, realizing Marnak is already sitting there. Confused, he asks why Marnak is back so soon. He notices Sagitta at the table and asks who the new face is. Marnak calmly explains that Sagitta is a new mercenary that Dakia hired. He asks Sagitta to introduce himself properly. Carmen looks skeptical but tries to be polite. He tells Marnak that he trusts his judgment but hopes this new companion won't bring trouble. Sagitta nods and assures him there will be no problem. Carmen relaxes a little and says he is glad to have a strong ally with them. He mentions he was on his way to the village smithy to pick arrowheads before rushing in. Now that everything seems fine, he says he will finish his errand. The sun is already up, and he reminds them that they will leave early tomorrow morning. In the city of Eratico, a girl named Pearly is shouting, waiting for Marnak and his companions. She demands to know exactly when they will arrive. A man, Riverkel, questions the other girl, Bena, asking if she is certain of their destination. begging that they arrive before he goes insane from the constant whining. Pearly cries more, asking again for the time. Baina assures her, stating she has been checking their location and is certain they will be there soon. Pearly seeks confirmation that they are coming to Eradiko. Baina insists that she is telling the truth, wondering why Pearly won't believe her. Pearly claims she believes her but threatens Baina with a violent death if they don't show up. Finally, Dakia announces their arrival in Eradiko, looking forward to a warm shower. Meanwhile, some men approach Marnak, confirming he is a priest. Marnak affirms his identity. One of the men pleads with him to go to the Trumpeter of Rest, explaining that the man won't even listen to the Lord and must be told to stop calling upon the undead. He offers to pay Marnak. Marnak expresses doubt that his words will change anything, but the man implores him to at least try to talk to the Trumpeter, stating that he and his companions are terrified of the undead who walk around every night. Marnak agrees, though warning the man not to expect too much. The man thanks him profusely. Marnak decides to help first and catch up with his companions later, telling Carmen and Dakia to go ahead and find lodging. He walks through the Trumpeter of Rest, holding a torch and reflecting on the unique nature of the Trumpeters of Death and Rest. Unlike the priests of other gods who are granted authority by choice, the Trumpeters are chosen randomly and without reason on a random day. They serve the dead, and the reason for their lives is a mystery. All anyone knows is that to awaken the dead, they appear in places with many corpses, blow on their soundless trumpets, and walk around as a soldier. Though people in power have looked down on this phenomenon, no one dares to lay a finger on the undead led by the Trumpeters. It is understandable since facing an infinitely rising army of undead is something anyone would want to avoid. Thus, the Trumpeters of Rest live their lives in solitude, only moving around with the undead, seen as something like a natural phenomenon. Marnak approaches the figure and greets him. He explains that he could not refuse a favor and has come to say the same thing as many others. Is not it time the Trumpeter left this place? He points out that moving undead are unpleasant for normal people, and questions if there is another reason for the Trumpeter's stay since he doesn't usually remain in one area for long. The figure replies, "Evil spirit worshippers." Marnak is confused. The figure points behind him, announcing that they will cause many deaths in Eradiko. Marnak asks if the Trumpeter is saying there are evil spirit worshippers there. The figure confirms it has already begun. The mother of corruption keeps saying, "Murder." Marnak runs away, thinking that things won't go their way this time, unlike the last time in Kelton. While Eradiko is burning, Pearly is crying that they are not there, accusing Bina of lying. Bina insists she has verified that Marnak's companions have entered the city and will find him soon. Riverkill interrupts, announcing he thinks he has found Marnak. Pearly confirms that it really is Marnak. Marnak thinks he didn't expect to meet them in a place like this. He holds his sword and realizes he needs to calm down, but decides he won't care about that this time. He recalls that the man, the damned mage son of a bitch, is someone who murdered his savior and him long ago, and he is someone he needs to take revenge on. Marnak begins to recount his past, explaining how he used to live with constant, unnecessary worries. He had to starve on days when he didn't earn enough. It was on one of those days, during an intense blizzard, that he met his savior, Shantux. Shantux was a man of indeterminate age, easygoing but serious when needed. When Marnak woke up, Shantux didn't ask him anything, simply telling him to stay as long as he needed. Shantux was a priest who worshipped the goddess of preservation and worked as a gravekeeper on the outskirts of town. One day, while helping him with work, Marnak asked why he had saved him. Shantux smiled and responded that he just wanted to. Marnak cherishes that smile to this day. Shantux was always helping others, stating that there shouldn't be a reason to help. Marnak wanted to be more like him. After a year of peaceful life, another winter arrived. Marnak saved a man who had passed out in the snow, just as Shantux had saved him. He regrets that decision, lamenting that he should never have saved the damned mage, Riverkill. After receiving their help and healing, the damned mage smiled and confessed to being a worshipper of evil spirits. With magic, he ripped Marnak to shreds. When Marnak woke up again, The hand he had stored away had somehow escaped from his inventory and was stroking his cheek. Marnak had to face the consequences of his actions. The corpse of Shantux, who had been cruelly murdered by the darned mage. Back in the present, Riverkel claims he remembers Marnak, recognizing him as the gravekeeper. He states that Marnak had died and that he killed him with his own hands. Noting that Marnak is alive now, Riverkel declares the point moot. He comments on Marnak's priest outfit and recognizes the arm, boasting that he has been using it well for the last 3 years. Marnak is enraged, cursing the mage. Pearly moves toward Marnak, declaring that she heard he is very strong and has been waiting for him. However, Marnak strikes her and moves forward to attack. Riverkel fights back, remarking that Marnak is very different from the rumors. Marnak barks for him to be quiet. The mother of corruption continues to utter the word murder. Marnak cuts off Riverkel's hand. Pearly approaches again, telling Marnak she really likes him. Marnak strikes at her once more. Meanwhile, Riverkel uses his ability scale of retribution. Marnak watches as a strange light reaches the sky, followed by a huge blast. Riverkel observes that the divine power he senses from Marnak is not that of the goddess of preservation, but the blessing on the priest outfit is working fine. He concludes that Marnak must also be a worshipper of evil spirits. Marnak becomes furious and shouts at him to shut up. Riverkel believes he has hit the nail on the head. Marnak summons the corruption giant and commands him to be quiet again. Riverkel exclaims at the interesting authority. Noting the loss of his left arm, he proposes to take Marnak's, stating it would be perfect. Marnak moves forward to attack him, thinking that he will kill Riverkel tonight, no matter what. Sajita is fighting off the undead. Dakia worries that the priest might be dead. Sajita assures her that he is not yet. Carmen urges them to hurry to the castle. Dakia expresses concern for Priest Marnak, wondering if he is caught up in the mess. Sajita insists Marnak is not someone who would die so easily, prioritizing their own escape. They reach the Lord's castle, only to see it is burning. Carmen observes that the Lord is likely not at fault for the madness spreading among the people. Sajita instructs Dakia that they must kill their way out. An undead moves to attack Sajita as Dakia looks on. Sajita quickly kills it and advises Dakia that if they want to escape, they need to keep killing. He tells her to view the undead as mere meat if she wants to live. Sajita takes the lead, warning her not to fall behind. Dakia smiles, grips her sword, and kills an undead. Sajita shouts for them to head to the castle gates. He glances back and spots Marnak with his corruption giant in the distance. Pearly declares the confrontation is exciting, saying it is just as she expected. She expresses her intense curiosity about how far Marnak will go. Baina questions why they cannot resolve the issue through words if they are both evil spirit worshippers. Pearly adamantly refuses, stating she has been waiting to meet him for too long. Marnak commands the corruption giant to advance. The giant moves forward to attack Riverkel. Marnak also holds his sword, ready to strike. The two fight fiercely. Riverkel challenges Marnak, asking if he has anything new besides swords and fists. The mother of corruption continues to chant the word murder. Riverkel advises Marnak to calm down, commenting that he is simply too much. Just then, someone attacks Riverkel. Marnak becomes surprised, wondering what happened. He looks into the distance and realizes it was Sajita, with the undead in pursuit. Marnak reflects on a saying that revenge is futile, and feels that the outcome is proving to be just that. He had not expected anything dramatic, but he also didn't want such a futile ending. Marnak offers Riverkel's corpse to the mother of corruption. Riverkel's body suddenly begins to shine, and Marnak is astonished that he is overflowing with divine power. He grips his sword, wondering if Riverkel is alive. His first priority is to reclaim his right arm. Benna cries out that they are totally screwed, lamenting that she suggested resolving the conflict with words. Pearly expresses disbelief, demanding to know what happened and insisting Marnak do it again. Benna grabs her, ordering her to be quiet, warning that in this state, Marnak cannot differentiate between friend and foe. Marnak requests the corruption giant to toss him over, dismissing it afterwards. As Benna runs away with Pearly, Marnak lands in front of them. He demands to know what is going to happen now. Pearly declares that they are what people call a secret society of evil spirit worshippers, identifying themselves as Liberation. Pearly reminds Marnak about the people he killed earlier in Kelton. Marnak acknowledges it, and Pearly reveals that those people were also part of Liberation. She explains that this is the reason they have been waiting for him. When Marnak asks how many people are part of the group, Pearly admits she doesn't know. She explains that she came because she was told she could do whatever she wanted. She adds that River Kel probably knows since he was sent by Liberation for a mission here. Marnak asks about Liberation's true goal. Bena reveals that Liberation's goal is to create a world where no one is persecuted for believing in any god. Marnak asks if that's why they destroyed the village. Bena answers that she didn't want to do this but had no choice because Riverkel caused trouble. She mentions that they needed to collect certain things and that one of those items is in Marnak's possession. When Marnak asks what she means, Bena tells him she is talking about the holy relic, the marble that was inside the incarnation's body. Marnak realizes his suspicion is correct. Using the holy relic that contains Mother's power, Liberation is planning to do something dangerous. Marnak tells her that the marble broke. Bena refuses to believe it, insisting that the relic cannot break. Marnak replies that it did, and he threw away the remnants in Kelton. Marnak asks if there is only one relic. Pearly suddenly shouts that there are 4 more. The Mother of Corruption whispers the word murder. Marnak senses that Mother's sealed power has gone into a rage. Bena becomes furious at Pearly for revealing that information. Marnak realizes they have 4 relics and asks who was responsible for driving all the villagers insane. Pearly insists she had nothing to do with it and doesn't know how to cause that kind of madness. Bena becomes frustrated and asks why Pearly keeps answering Marnak's questions. Before she can say more, Marnak strikes suddenly and kills her. He then kills Pearly too, dedicating it to the Mother of Corruption. The status window appears, showing his divinity level as 3023. Marnak notices that Pearly is not truly dead. Somehow her presence lingers, but now that the cause of the chaos is gone, the area becomes silent. At that moment, Carmen, Sajita, and Dakia arrive. Carmen calls out to Marnak, pointing out that everyone around has fallen to the ground. Sajita asks if Marnak was responsible. Marnak confirms that he was. Sajita asks if his spear was of any help, and Marnak replies that it was extremely helpful. Sajita expresses relief, while Marnak quietly hopes Sajita did not see the corruption giant that assisted him earlier. He then tells everyone that they must move quickly because something big is about to awaken. The group becomes confused. As they look around, they see many monsters appearing in the distance. Carmen notices that the monsters have corpses attached to them and points it out. Marnak explains that those are indeed corpses, and that is what he meant by something awakening. The monsters merge together into a massive giant. Marnak realizes with disgust that even after death, Riverkel has gathered all the corpses to form this monstrous body. He understands that this kind of authority suits Riverkel's twisted nature perfectly. Marnak turns to Dakia, who still feels troubled about killing. He tells her that he knows she is sad about the blood on her hands but promises to comfort her once everything is over. For now, he urges her to focus and stay strong. Dakia asks how he plans to comfort her. Marnak simply replies that he will think about it later. He then tells everyone that their current goal is to stall for time so they can save people. Carmen asks if someone will come to help them if they manage to stall long enough. Marnak answers that he is sure of it. Sajita then notices something unusual and alerts Marnak. She tells him that she thinks their help has already arrived. A mysterious figure appears in the distance, holding an instrument. The figure plays it, producing a loud sound that echoes through the area. In response, another giant monster appears. Dakia notices the figure moving toward them and asks Marnak if that person is coming to them. The figure approaches the group and asks for someone agile among them to take a spear and strike the heart of the giant monster. Everyone looks confused as Marnak steps forward, holding a spear in his hand. He asks the mysterious figure if it has a sword, and the figure transforms the spear into one. Marnak realizes that the weapon can take on different forms and asks if it can also create 2 more swords and some arrows. The figure responds by creating them instantly and tells Marnak to say everything he wants at once. Soon, everyone receives their own weapon. Dakia notices how light her weapon feels, while Marnak examines his and finds it impressive. The weapon is sharp, made of bones, and carries the divinity of the Trumpeter of Rest, which he knows will be highly effective against the undead. The figure explains that it will stop the giant's movement for a short time. During that moment, Marnak and his team must stab deeply into the giant's heart. In return for their help, the figure promises to let them keep the weapons. Marnak agrees with a confident smile. The figure raises its instrument and releases a loud, echoing sound that shakes the battlefield. Marnak and his team prepare for battle as the sound reverberates through the air. Suddenly, the giant and the undead begin to go wild. Their bodies start to melt into water and vanish completely. Dakia looks on in shock as the giant begins to dissolve. She calls out to Marnak in disbelief, pointing out that the giant and all the corpses he brought are melting. Marnak becomes confused as he watches the scene. He realizes that the figure is not simply destroying the undead, but melting their corpses to reshape them into solid forms again. He recognizes that this power is darker than that of the evil spirit worshippers. The figure calmly explains that it only deals with vessels that have been presented for rest. It tells Marnak that the weapons will guide them to the location of the giant's heart. Then it commands Marnak to run. Without hesitation, Marnak rushes forward, though he still has many questions. He tells himself that if he delays any longer, things could turn worse. Meanwhile, Dakia stands her ground facing the giant. She tries to stay strong but panics as the massive creature starts moving toward her. Realizing she cannot handle it alone, she decides to work with Carmen to overpower the giant from below. Marnak trusts her and lets her take that role. He then calls out to Sajida, asking if he can pierce the giant's heart on his own while Marnak distracts the head. Sajida agrees, and Marnak leaves the task to him. Marnak charges toward the giant, attacking fiercely. He knows exactly why he chose to target the head. According to the Mother of Corruption, a chunk of divinity is hidden in the middle of the giant's head. To him, the giant's face even resembles Riverkel, which fuels his determination further. With full force, Marnak strikes the giant's head repeatedly, intent on destroying it completely. He doesn't stop until the head shatters into pieces. At the same time, Sajida stands near the giant's massive body and senses the location of its heart. He aims carefully and drives his weapon deep into it. The giant lets out a silent cry of pain as its enormous body starts collapsing. Dakia watches the entire scene unfold as the giant's body melts once more into water and slowly disappears from sight. When the battle finally ends, Marnak stands amid the fading mist, breathing heavily. In his hand, he holds a glowing red sphere, a relic that once belonged to the giant. As he looks at it, a feeling of satisfaction and relief washes over him. After a long struggle, he has finally avenged Shantux's death. Dakia rushes toward Marnak, worried if he is hurt. Marnak quickly looks around, asking for Sajita, fearing he might be injured. Sajita appears beside them, unharmed, and examines his new weapon with admiration, finding it surprisingly well made. The mysterious figure then points at Marnak, motioning for him to follow. Marnak obeys, though confusion fills his mind. He wonders why the figure wants to speak to him alone. Thoughts race through his head. Perhaps the figure realized he took the red marble, or maybe it discovered that he is connected to the evil spirit worshippers. Inside his mind, the Mother of Corruption's voice echoes repeatedly, urging him toward violence. As Marnak walks closer, the figure warns him that something is coming. A heavy pressure fills the air and Marnak immediately recognizes the overwhelming presence. It is not human, it feels divine, the presence of a higher being. He realizes it is the Trumpeter of Death and Rest, a part of God itself. The figure turns to face Marnak, points at him, and utters a single word, capital. Then, the figure collapses to the ground and begins to fade away. Marnak kneels beside it, trying to understand the meaning behind that one word. Before disappearing, the figure tells him that it neither knows nor wishes to know what lies beyond. Marnak accepts this and reaches out his hand, suggesting they return. As they walk together, Marnak requests a favor. He asks if the figure could help clean up the destruction around Eradicco. The figure initially refuses, stating that helping the living is not its duty, but after a pause it asks how it can assist. Marnak explains that it would be a great help if the undead could locate any survivors. When the figure asks if that is all, Marnak continues, requesting that the survivors be moved to stable buildings for safety. The figure raises its instrument and plays a loud, haunting note. Instantly, undead figures begin rising around Dakia, Carmen, and Sajida. Marnak adds more instructions, asking for useful supplies to be moved to safe places, explaining that if left behind, they will be destroyed in the fires. Before he can finish speaking, the figure interrupts, reminding him to give all his instructions at once. Marnak then offers his right arm as a token, entrusting the figure with it before it departs. Dakia watches the figure leave, astonished. She never imagined she would witness someone like the Trumpeter of Rest helping the living. Marnak quietly mentions that the figure was kind. Dakia smiles and thanks him for asking for that help, saying it made a huge difference in saving lives. Marnak admits he did not expect the divine being to agree. Dakia clasps his hand and expresses gratitude once more before they both turn to rest after the long battle. Later that night, the Mother of Corruption is busy examining the red marble, the relic Marnak retrieved. Marnak studies it closely, trying to piece together the figure's final message. He wonders if the word capital means that another holy relic is hidden there. If that is true, it also means the trumpeter knew he was a priest of corruption. He asks the Mother of Corruption if she recognizes the god they met earlier, but she gives no clear answer. Marnak recalls the figure's last statement about not knowing or wanting to know, realizing this means his secret identity will remain hidden. However, the Mother of Corruption grows agitated and furious, and throws the relic. Marnak gently tells her not to lose control, assuring her that she can sever the bond between the marble and the divine power inside it. He encourages her to stay composed, explaining that throwing objects in anger will not help. He tries to lighten her mood, telling her she is already incredibly charming and that keeping calm will make her even more admirable. He playfully insists that she is already charming enough to him, no matter how angry she becomes. Elsewhere, in an inn, two men discuss the spreading chaos in the world. One mentions that the evil spirit worshippers are appearing everywhere, across kingdoms in every direction. The other worries that their own city might be in danger since Kelton and Eradicco have already suffered devastating losses. The first man reassures him that someone wiped out the worshippers in both cities. When the other man realizes who it was, he becomes excited. They raise their glasses in celebration, praising Eradicco's savior, Marnak. Among them, Priest Pridia sits there, listening to their words. She quietly repeats Marnak's name, reflecting that he has now become known throughout the land as Eradicco's savior. Hilden walks quickly through a corridor, angry and frustrated. He mutters to himself about the evil spirit worshippers, blaming them for ruining his plans. He had even convinced the Lord of Eradicco to help capture the princess, but now both the assassins and the Lord are dead. He clenches his fists, furious that everything fell apart. He worries that the Dragon Kingdom's prince will be enraged by this failure. Still, he knows the Prince Draco will be even more furious if he does nothing. Determined to act, Hilden stops at a large wooden door, knocks firmly, and announces himself to Prince Draco. Far away, on a snowy path, Marnak faces a terrified bandit begging for his life. Marnak ignores the man's pleas and kills him without hesitation. He decides to bury all the bandits' bodies himself. Standing before their graves, he offers their souls to the Mother of Corruption. His divine power increases, the number showing more than 3,000 divinity points. Marnak looks at the graves and calmly mentions that they have gained quite a bit from the bandits and that it's time to return. As they head back, Dakia walks beside Marnak. She hesitates before asking why he never spares any of the bandits they fight. She insists that she doesn't mean to criticize him but simply wants to understand. Marnak smiles slightly and asks if she questioned Carmen and Sajida too. Dakia explains what they told her. Carmen said the bandits who attack armed people likely target the defenseless too, so he cannot let them live. Sajida said he only does his job as a hired guard but can try to spare enemies if Dakia wishes. Then Dakia mentions that Carmen believes in people's potential, even those who have done wrong. Marnak agrees and explains that he also believes bandits could change, but their first step toward redemption is always the hardest. He believes most will return to evil rather than repent. That is why he kills them. Dakia, still unsure, asks if they even have the right to make such a judgment when no god has made that rule clear. Marnak thinks about the mother of corruption, who allows him to act according to his own will. He tells Dakia that he doesn't kill them as judgment but out of responsibility. If he spares evil men and they harm the innocent later, that would be on his conscience. Between that and taking their lives early, he chooses the burden of the latter. He knows both are heavy responsibilities but prefers to live with one he can understand. Dakia listens silently, realizing how deeply Marnak has thought about it. Marnak admits he doesn't know when he will pay for his sins, but accepts it. To him, sparing an evil person who kills again is a far worse mistake. He silently remembers his promise, to never let an evil person live if he cannot take full responsibility. Dakia gently asks what happened to make him think this way. Marnak agrees to tell her later and points toward a group of merchants traveling nearby. He suggests meeting them. Sajida comments that merchants of that size must have many valuable goods, and they could sell the weapons looted from the bandits. Marnak agrees, and they approach. One of the merchants notices Marnak's sword immediately. He admires the weapon, recognizing it as forged from immortalium, a rare ancient metal known as the Metal of Immortality. He says he has never seen so much of it in one piece, not even in over a century of collecting. The merchant offers to buy it at any price, but Marnak declines firmly, refusing to sell it. The merchant understands and moves on to business. He reveals his true purpose for calling them over. He wants to hire Marnak and his group as guards until they reach the Northern Kingdom's capital. He recognizes Marnak as the famous priest known for slaying demons and saving Erudiko. The merchant promises generous payment and better treatment than any other mercenaries. Carmen politely asks for time to discuss it, and the merchant agrees, saying he looks forward to their answer. Later that night, after accepting the job, Marnak speaks to the mother of corruption, wondering if she is pleased. He plans to find a good place to stay once they are paid. Just then, chaos breaks out nearby. Screams echo through as people shout about an invasion. A swarm of bat-like creatures suddenly attacks and Marnak and Carmen rush out immediately to fight them. Using their weapons, they strike down the fast-moving creatures one after another. Dakia, unable to stand by, uses her magic power to attack one of the bats and manages to save a person from getting hurt. Marnak quickly notices and warns her not to use uncontrolled magic in battle. He reminds her that spells from an inexperienced caster can be more dangerous to allies than enemy attacks. Dakia argues that her aim is good enough to hit a creature that large, but Marnak reminds her that flying enemies move unpredictably. He tells her that if a spell misses, it might strike one of their own. After a tough fight, the group manages to kill all the bat-like creatures. Then, Marnak approaches the merchant and demands to know why the evil spirit worshippers are attacking their organization. At first, the merchant pretends to be clueless, but when Marnak raises his weapon slightly, he grows nervous and admits that there is more to the story. He asks Marnak to keep what he is about to reveal a secret. The merchant signals one of his men to bring a box. He explains that the attacks began after their group was given a mysterious item to deliver to the capital. They had received a large payment in immortalium and were promised more after completing the delivery, so they continued the journey despite repeated ambushes. The merchant admits that he does not understand why this item attracts so much danger. When he opens the box, a faint divine glow escapes from it. Marnak immediately recognizes what it is, a holy relic containing the divine essence of his own mother. His thoughts race as he realizes that this relic is the true reason behind the worshippers' attacks. He wonders how the enemy keeps finding out where these relics are being moved. When the merchant asks if he knows anything about it, Marnak replies that he does not. After a pause, Marnak brings up the terms of their contract. Since the merchant hid such a serious detail, he insists that the group deserves double the originally promised payment. The merchant reluctantly agrees, even joking that Marnak would make a great merchant himself. Marnak refuses, reminding him that he serves as a priest, not a trader. Later that night, the group discusses what happened. Sajita remarks that the guard soldiers' weapons already showed signs of battle, meaning they had fought other attackers before this ambush. Dakia scolds him for not mentioning it sooner, but Sajita explains that the merchants deliberately hid that information. He points out that since they were traveling in the same direction, the group would have faced the ambush either way. Carmen laughs and remarks that at least Marnak managed to double their pay. Marnak responds that they earned it. Outside, Marnak quietly speaks to the mother of corruption within his mind. The dark voice tempts him to steal the relic while no one is watching. Marnak hesitates, knowing the risk is too great if he is caught. The voice teases him, calling it a perfect crime, but Marnak refuses to rush. Instead, he comes up with a clever plan. He will let the evil spirit worshippers attack again and steal the relic. During the retrieval mission that follows, he will secretly extract the divine essence and return the empty relic, keeping his secret intact. Amused by his own strategy, he quietly praises himself for his intelligence. Suddenly, his thoughts are interrupted by another ambush. Marnak quickly grabs his weapon, annoyed that he has to fight again right after cleaning up. Chaos breaks out as guards shout warnings and prepare to defend the camp. A large beast charges toward Marnak. He recognizes it instantly. It is a Karpal, a horned monster known for its brutal strength. Without hesitation, Marnak moves forward to strike. His weapon flashes as he attacks with precise force, cutting through the monster's defenses and breaking its horn. The Karpal falls after a fierce struggle, and Marnak finishes it off. As he steadies his breath, he notices a sharp light shining in the distance. From within that glow, Pearly appears and remarks they meet after a long time apart. Pearly keeps thinking about Marnak, but he never really thinks about her. She stays cheerful and says that it's fine because she thought about him enough for both of them. Marnak, however, has questions for her. She acts playful and asks what she will get in return if she answers. The scene changes to the ongoing battle. Everyone is fighting the bat-like creatures. Marnak almost gets attacked, but Sajita quickly kills the creature and saves him. Carmen notices one of the monsters trying to escape, and Marnak rushes after it. He catches up and kills it with a single strike. Right after that, he sees Pearly waiting for him. She tells him that he is late. Marnak greets her and asks about the situation. Pearly starts talking in her usual playful way, asking if he will grant her wishes. Marnak stays serious and focuses on his question. He wants to know how many evil spirit worshippers are planning to ambush them. Pearly thinks for a moment and admits there are 3 others, not counting her. She mentions they don't treat her well and act like she doesn't exist. Marnak silently thinks that it's no surprise since she is giving away her side's secrets so easily. Pearly continues to talk freely. She reveals that their attack on the merchant group was meant to retrieve a necklace from the merchant leader. Marnak asks how she even knew that the necklace was there. Pearly shrugs it off and says she doesn't know. But she does know the order came from someone in Liberation, the secret organization of evil spirit worshippers. Marnak is confused, since she herself is part of Liberation. Pearly explains that there's been an internal conflict, nothing major, just a small argument between groups. When Marnak asks what caused the fight, Pearly admits she heard about it but cannot remember the details. She claims to be neutral and only works for money or materials. She adds that she uses the materials to make her dolls, and reveals that she is a priestess who worships an entity called the Shaking String. Marnak realizes that the person standing in front of him is not the real Pearly, but one of her dolls, just like before. Before leaving, Pearly warns Marnak to be careful because her allies might be plotting something behind her back. Marnak, curious, asks why she is being so kind to him. Pearly teases him, saying that the reason for her kindness is a very different kind of question. Marnak suddenly loses interest and decides not to ask further. She becomes frustrated, begging him to ask anyway, but he refuses. He then tells her to answer what she wanted from him instead. Pearly smiles and says she will tell him next time they meet. Marnak doesn't hesitate. He kills her doll with a strike and quietly bids her goodbye. Later that night, Dakia approaches Marnak. He tells her she should rest since they might be attacked again soon. Dakia agrees but mentions she didn't see him earlier and asks where he was. Marnak lies, saying he chased a creature and thought he sensed the presence of an evil spirit worshipper but found nothing when he arrived. Dakia expresses disappointment that he didn't get to fight one. She then notices his face is dirty and takes out her handkerchief to clean it. Marnak panics, trying to stop her because he doesn't want her handkerchief to get dirty. But Dakia insists and tells him she brought it for him anyway. She holds his hand and tells him to stop avoiding her. She gently wipes his face and hands him the handkerchief afterward, telling him to continue washing up himself. She wishes him good night and leaves. After she walks away, the mother of corruption, the dark entity inside Marnak, appears, jealous of Dakia's closeness to him. Marnak tells her that it's normal for people to wash their faces and she shouldn't be upset. He realizes his face is still hurting and wonders if she is even listening to him. The next day, while the group continues their journey through the snowy mountains, Marnak suddenly hears a deep rumbling sound. He senses danger and quickly realizes what it is. Not an ambush, but an avalanche. He yells for everyone to drop their belongings and run immediately,